I love that that's part of your process too, like know thyself and know thy people, because that is literally the next step is, okay, well, what is your why? And then now you have to go out. If you don't know yourself, how are you going to be able to identify what they want as they being your clients and potential people you could help? How can you even
Yep.
recognize that?
Get ready to lead with heart, authenticity, and a dash of daring. Hey there, leaders and changemakers. Welcome to the Heart of Leadership podcast, where we dive deep into the soul of leadership. I'm Kip, your guide on this journey of blending human-centered leadership, behavioral science, and strategy, all to help you tackle your toughest challenges. You excited? Yeah, me too. So let's dive in. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us a good friend, Nicole Du Guay, join us. Nicole is a beacon of innovation and resilience in the wellness industry and coaching industry. From the skies as a flight attendant to grounding herself in the world of wellness as a yoga and holistic nutritional expert, Nicole's journey is nothing short of inspiring. Her transformation, however, continued through the adversity as she pivoted during that crazy time we all know as COVID, from in-person wellness sessions to mastering the digital landscape, creating a thriving online business that not only stands out in its uniqueness and genuine nature, but it actually converts. Today, Nicole helps wellness coaches and practitioners build compelling online brands, optimize their digital presence, and develop sustainable business strategies that drive sales and foster genuine connections. With a focus on customized design and strategic online visibility, Nicole empowers her clients to find their voice, to boost their visibility, and clarify their business strategies. She's here today to share her expert insights on building a successful online business, nurturing a growth mindset, and helping others to live and lead on their terms. So please join me in welcoming Nicole to the show. We're so excited to have her. Hi, Nicole. How are you? Glad to have you here. I'm super excited about this.
Yes. Hi, Kip. Thanks for the intro. I'm really excited to be here.
Cool. Well, I'm going to start you off with, I'm again reading that intro, and I was checking into you a little bit. I mean, we've known each other for a little while, but there's some stuff in there I didn't even know, which is really cool. So why don't you share a little bit more about it with us? Like take us from that moment when you went from being in the flight attendant world and that kind of stuff, that industry, to when you dove into the wellness industry. Like, how did you get there? What was the shift for you? How did that work?
Yeah. So when I was flying, I've always kind of been interested in what are called, some people call them alternative therapies. I call them complementary because I think they work well with traditional.
Cool.
But I've always kind of been curious about all of those things. And one of my girlfriends dragged me to a yoga class kicking and screaming. And then I got there and I was in Shavasana. I was like, oh yeah, I could get used to this. And progressively, I just started doing it more and more. But at the time, I was in my early 20s and broke and just barely scraping by, even as a flight attendant, because I kept traveling. I didn't have a lot of disposable income, we'll call it. So I decided I wanted to do yoga teacher training, and it kind of just blossomed from there, because since my first yoga teacher training, I just realized that first off, yoga is so much more than just moving your body. I learned all about energy. I learned all about nutrition and got introduced to this whole wide world, and just kind of like blew me open. And then from there, I did a yoga therapy training. I started studying nutrition and actually helped teach part of the yoga therapy training that I did as well, which was really exciting for me. So it just kind of organically, and I mean, there's other things that inspired, because I just wanted to be healthy. My brother has autoimmune conditions, and I was hoping to help him with it. And as I started dabbling from one complementary therapy to another, I started learning about others. And it just kind of piqued my interest, and I do a little research and then do a training and start using it. And it just kind of evolved organically as the byproduct of, once you get into the world of natural therapies, you start learning and being introduced to all these different ideas and concepts and practices, right? Yeah. And to be honest, as a flight attendant, it was really evident to me super quick just how unhealthy the lifestyle can be. So I was really looking for something to really just take care of myself.
Right. Right. So did you find, I know I found in my journey through complementary healing and wellness that in trying all the different things, I kind of gravitated towards a certain world per se, and modalities and things like that. Do you find now that over the years you're gravitating towards one or the other, or a group or anything like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I really, 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 really love working with energy. I love working with
Okay.
energy. I'm so fascinated with feeling energy, understanding it, seeing it work, feeling it work, tapping into what I call source or sometimes universal connection. Some people call it God, whatever your higher power is. For me, it's this idea of this universal pond that we all come from, and just tapping into it and just feeling the abundance and feeling blessed and feeling loved regardless of what my situation is in life. To me, that just makes me so excited, makes me feel great. And so I think I would say energy, all the energy works really, really do it for me.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I know, I mean, we can geek out on that stuff. I know we
Yeah.
can chat about it for a really long time. But one of the things that fascinates me the most about this world, this industry, it's similar to the work that I've done with artists and performers and essentially creatives,
Mm,
um, is that creatives, like people that are in the wellness industry, usually tend to be pretty crap at business.
yes.
And I don't know if that's because we use different parts of our brains, if we function on a different energy frequency and stuff like that. But
Mm.
what's your thoughts on that? And, we'll go from there. What's your thoughts on that? Have you experienced that?
100%. Yes. When I built my first business back in 2015, yeah, 2015, I was a nutritionist, yoga into yoga therapy, and just starting my path and my journey with energy healing. And I had absolutely no idea what to do. I was fortunate that the area that I was living in New Zealand at the time, and I had some really great connections. And so word of mouth worked really well for me at first and helped sort of build that foundation for my practice, which was great because that then just fueled and funded, hiring business coach after business coach, not always great ones. It also, like helped me put some funds into building a website, which I did from scratch and did myself. And I've always been really keen and curious on pushing the limits of my own boundaries and my own comfort zone. And so when the tech started coming in and the idea of going online started presenting itself to me, at first I was a little bit hesitant because I was like, how the hell do you do that? Like, how the heck do you get online? How do you build a website? How do you find people online? So for me, it was a lot of research and learning new things, and just the excitement of building something and watching it grow and be successful was really encouraging. And that's kind of where my intrinsic motivation kicked in. It was just the satisfaction of learning something and maybe not doing it perfectly, but doing it well enough that I'm seeing some kind of results. And then because I was experiencing results, my other wellness friends were like, what the heck are you doing? Can you help me with my
Right.
website? Can you help me make these flyers? Where did you get your logo? And so, and like, how do you structure your price? How do you price yourself? And all of these questions that I had myself started surfacing. And so in 2020, that's why I decided to pivot. I decided to, when I moved back to Canada, I was like, okay, well, an opportunity is here. I'd taken a break because I got married and took a little bit of a break from coaching, and I was going to get back into it, but decided that actually, it's like a switch, when sometimes you're shifting directions, you kind of come to a completion of something and it's not necessarily you're finished with it. It's just now you're being called in a different direction. It was that.
Right.
And so that's when I went
Okay.
and did business education and graphic and web design and marketing studies as well. So that's why I'm really passionate about helping wellness coaches and practitioners build online brands that drive sales, is because that's what I wish I had. I had coaches telling me how to do other stuff, but I didn't have anybody telling me specifically how to build an online business.
Right. In that, like, what are some of the challenges that you find that your clients
Mm.
bump up against? Like, what are the biggest ones that are getting in the way of them, following your path and having that successful business, online, whether it's
Well,
online or any way in general?
Well, in particular online, I find the biggest question mark for a lot of, and just because I specialize, I'm sure it's not just the wellness group, but just because that's who I'm really feeling passionate about supporting. Um, I find that it's just we were talking about this not too long ago about how we're really great at our craft, but we're not really great at business until you do the study and you do the learning and you do the educating yourself around it. And a lot of wellness practitioners are really amazing at what they do. And the only reason why they're not successful is because they don't really know, or to be honest, feel comfortable marketing themselves. A lot are still in the mindset that money isn't spiritual, and that asking
Right.
for payment and asking for what they're worth isn't spiritual. There's still a lot of practitioners that feel if they don't give something away for free, or they charge too much, that they're limiting people from accessing them and therefore doing a disservice. So that whole mindset around money seems to be a really strong differentiating factor between the wellness practitioners and coaches who are successful versus the ones who are just as good, if not better, but struggle.
Right. Yeah. It's the
Mm.
key. It's the ground in all of the leadership work that I do and the training that I do. That's hands down one of the very first things we attack is the
Yeah,
mindset, right?
me too.
Knowing yourself and knowing where your head is at and where you're coming from will change your direction,
Yep.
totally, and how you see things and how you approach things. What are some tools that you use to help them find their mindset, and like shift from um that place of feeling like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do this. How do you what are some tools that you use to get them out of that space?
So, one of the tools I use is meditation, and you're a meditation teacher as well. So, you know the power meditation has on mindset. And I think what I noticed is a lot of people get stuck in their emotions. And sometimes it's
Mm.
fear, sometimes it's feeling not good enough, sometimes it's uncertainty or lack of clarity. So, the emotions kind of get stuck. And I find meditation helps quiet the mind enough so that you can hear and you can listen. So I really focus on, and everybody's different. And so everybody needs different tools. But one that does come up is meditation and learning how to settle your emotions, emotionally regulate so that you can make clear choices. Because when we're in panic mode, to be honest, even if you have all the tools, we don't always make good decisions when we're in panic mode, or that heightened emotional state, right? So it really comes down to being able to soothe yourself, because you're going to face challenges, you're going to face uncertainty, you're going to feel like a fraud. It's just That's just what happens naturally as you move through that comfort zone and into the unknown. At some point you have to just take the leap. And so what I find meditation is just, it helps people bring more self-awareness, and just learn how to self-soothe. And then I also do energy healing with a lot of my clients. So I do a lot of Reiki, and I love Reiki. Some people like yoga as well, but I find that once people kind of get a taste of Reiki with me, because I do it a little bit differently, once they get a taste of it, that's what they really start to lean into, is the awareness that comes from the Reiki sessions, which is really cool. So I think those would be my two key things: is learning how to self-soothe so you can find the courage, find the clarity to keep moving forward, but also having the awareness to have that deeper understanding of yourself, so that you
Yeah.
can. So those are kind of the two things that we focus on. And I have a variety of different ways. Sometimes it's Reiki, sometimes it is yoga. Oftentimes it's meditation. Sometimes it'll be visualization. Other times it's going to be more along the lines of yoga nidra. And then my favorite, the third option that I have too, is I have this really awesome resource and community with awesome people like you who have other skill sets that I don't have, that I can say, you know what? I think possibly NLP or hypnosis might be really great for you. Let me connect you with Kip and let's see if that'll help you move through whatever it is that you're going through. Because I mean, I have an awesome network of amazing people like you. So got to pull
Oh,
on
that,
that.
thank you.
Dig into
Thank you.
that.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. I agree. And that's, we send people back and forth to each other, and that's huge, right? It's massive.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, and everybody that I talk with in, when people are talking about their clients, their staff, the people that they work with, when you're humaning basically,
Yeah.
right? And you're coming up against blocks and challenges and frustrations and things like that, it always comes back to the beginning of knowing yourself
Yep.
and knowing how you're going to react in weird situations when you come up against some sort of challenge, right? Like it's fascinating how many times I've had conversations with people where I've asked them, I'm like, okay, so what is your, are you a fight, flight, or freeze when you get into stress, right? And then they're like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I, I don't know, actually, and it's one of those things, again, the self-awareness of like,
Yeah.
and that's where I find, like, take a bit of time to meditate on that, or I'll show you how, or like find a calm and really process and, do a little reflective journaling, do the work, basically,
Mhm.
like figure out where you're at, because all of a sudden, when you get facing a challenging situation in business, when you get facing a challenging person, a challenging boss, whatever it is, you're going to go into your, your
Default response.
preferred, totally, right?
Yeah.
So, and knowing what that is, then you can be like, okay, wait a minute, whoa, I'm running away from this, or like I'm really angry about this and I'm charging against it, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, this is where I am. Let's reset, and then let's look at this a little bit more logically and
Yeah.
work it out. So it's funny that it
Yeah.
comes across like that.
It's totally that body mind connection, like in the sense of just understanding and being aware of what your body is doing, because your body tells you a lot that your awareness might not be aware of. And so, I mean, I have some clients sometimes that are in Reiki sessions, for example, and I invite them to do things like relax this muscle or bring your awareness here, notice if you're clenching there and things like that. And I always get the feedback, oh, I was clenching my fists and I didn't even realize it. Or, I had a furrowed brow and I wonder how long I had that for, or the shoulders that are tied around the ears and things like that. A lot of times, people don't realize that your physical body responds to the thoughts and the emotions that you're feeling. So if you notice for just a minute what is happening to your body in a certain moment when you feel an emotion, you can probably tune in really well and be like, oh, I know exactly what's happening. People hold
Yeah.
their breath all the time when they're in panic or like, ooh, apprehension. I don't know about this, right? And they don't even notice it. It's including myself. Sometimes I catch myself holding my breath.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I have a client, CEO of a pharmaceutical company, and he, I can tell all the time when he comes on and he's had a meeting with a certain group of people, because when he gets on the meeting, he's like this, right? And I'm like, oh, so you met with so and so today? He's like, how'd you know? I'm like, because you need to just relax it out. Like, he's like, I don't know how long I've been like this. I'm so tense. And it's like, yeah, well, your body just, it's telling you, it's telling me, it's telling everybody all the stories. So, know that you're going to get in there like that, and
Yeah,
that's going to happen, and realize it's happening. And then you can relax it out,
consciously
make better
release it.
decisions,
Yes.
respond instead of reacting, and that kind of stuff. That's
Exactly.
awesome. I
Yeah.
want to shift us a little bit.
It,
I know that even for me, when I was starting out, anybody who's starting out a new business, I would imagine that this is a big thing for health and wellness. Your brand, your
mm,
and your brand voice, coming up with who you are, to the rest of the world? Because I mean, in health and wellness, I know for sure, for me, I was like, well, I don't know how to do that, because like everything that I do is in here and it's emoting out. And I just, like this, what's your brand? And I'm trying to describe it. It's like, like an interpretive dance, it's like, and it's really hard. How do you help your clients find their personal brand, find their brand voice, and represent that in their website or their in the world?
I love this question because this is one of my favorite things is and I know you're the same, is asking about people, is asking them questions, is learning about what makes them tick. I'm a psychology major in university as well and do behavioral. I'm super interested as a behavioral scientist too. And so for me, I really, really like asking questions that make people reflect, but sometimes also maybe make them feel uncomfortable because they have to admit that they've never actually considered about themselves and thought about themselves in a certain way. And I love what happens after that. So, a lot of people, when they get, especially wellness practitioners, because that's what I have the most experience with, I notice that when they get into the sort of business world, if you will, air quotes, they they have all the skills that they need to do for their craft, but they don't realize how important it is to really understand their why. And I find once we tap into like, why do you do what you do? Well, I like to help people. Well, yeah, that's great. But what about it like lights you up? Why is that so important to you? Because at the end of the day, we all like to, accolades for, oh, good job. You made me feel good. And who doesn't like to be, like patted on the back for a good job, right? But at the end of the day, like, why are you so passionate about what you're doing? And I find this question, and I get annoying with it because getting people to be specific, they don't realize how not specific they are until they get in that session with me.
Yeah,
And I'm
you've
like,
got to get
okay,
granular, right?
yeah, like, why is that important? Why is it important for you to help other people? Why is it important for you to feel good in that way? Why is it important that you do this particular thing in this particular way? And I find that what I love about that process is people often leave feeling super jazzed up about their personal brand and also more deeply understand what it is that they feel called to, which just creates
Right.
confidence and also helps, as you know, when you start talking about yourself in a confident way, you unintentionally slash intentionally convince people that you know what you're talking about, and then they go, oh, go to expert for whatever the practice is, I'm going to go see that person.
Right. No, it's really cool. I find it fascinating how these concepts that we're talking about relate to our two different worlds that we work in too right
Yeah.
now. Like one of the biggest things that we teach is knowing yourself, and then know your people, right? And
Mm,
in that purpose. So like when you're saying like know yourself, get in there, but when I'm saying knowing your people, it's understanding them the same way you understand yourself, so that
mhm.
you can dig out their purpose,
Yeah.
right? And their why. Because once you have that why for yourself, for your people, um, trying to motivate is way different, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so much easier because you know what makes them tick, and you know what makes them passionate and what triggers that, and grinds it up. So you know it in yourself, you know it in your people, and then to keep that fire going, it keeps everybody going. Because personally, when you're working in your business as yourself, people are like, yeah, it must be so great to work for yourself. It's amazing. It is. It's beautiful. It's
It-
amazing. But
but
it's so hard. Like it's so hard because you don't have a team of people driving you all the time or pushing you, or like, you have a down day and you're like, oh, I'll just sit and watch a TV show, or, like I'm going to go for a 6-hour walk because that's what I want to do, not sit and market myself. Right. And that's a thing. And then same if you're working with a team of people, if they're having one of those days where they're down, and they're not into it, what it is that can spark their fire again, right? And you can keep them going, and keep them running towards their purpose, their why, and so knowing that is massively important. It's cool how it reflects on both sides. I love that.
yeah, and I love that that's part of your process too, like know thyself and know thy people, because that is literally the next step is, okay, well, what is your why? And then now you have to go out. If you don't know yourself, how are you going to be able to identify what they want as they being your clients and potential people you could help? How can you even
Yep.
recognize that? Like people who don't know love have a hard time recognizing true love when they see it and they experience it. They don't even notice it. They don't even recognize it. And I've been in that relationship where the other person just didn't recognize it and had no idea what it meant, right? So, I mean, it comes
Right.
down to that with your potential clients and your audience. If you don't understand what makes you tick and you don't have a good deep understanding of self, when you go to translate that into understanding what someone else needs and be able to say, hey, look what I have confidently that can help you, the disconnect happens, right? And I think when I first started, that was my biggest pitfall, I would say, is I did not take the time to understand my motivations, but also to get clarity as well in reflection on who I was really trying to help.
Yeah, and that's a massive piece. I mean, when you're running a business, they always say they're like, you've got to niche down, you've got to find your niche, you've got to find, and essentially what they're saying is you've got to find your people, you've got to find
Right.
your tribe, right? So if you don't know yourself, then you can't figure out who you're going to attract. And every business person, initially, every artist, anybody, creatives, that whole world, it's that idea of like, I just want everybody to benefit from what I
Mm-hmm.
have. I just want to help everybody. I don't want to niche down, I don't want to do that. And then there's a technical side to business where it's like you have to, like, you really got to come down, because you can't be all things to everybody yet. Like later on when you'll get there. So yeah, knowing your brand, and that's where it was universal for us in that, know yourself, know
Mm-hmm.
your people, and then your people could be the people that you're leading or your clients, right?
Right.
And know
Yeah.
that world, because then you can niche down. And then when you do find your people and you know yourself, aligning the purpose is so
Yes.
much easier, right? It's so
Agree.
much easier, because then you'll find that you're going to want to work with people that are like you, and those people are probably going to have a very similar why to you, and they're going to like the same things you do. And then, like, so it's really in there. In leadership, it's a little different. You don't always have that advantage of so the team. You may be walking into a team, you may be that kind of thing, but
Yeah.
you'll still find alignments right in
Yeah.
there, so you can find those relational things. And then when you have you know yourself, you know your people, you know your purpose, you're good, you're charging ahead, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool. I'll keep it to my framework, the questions, then, because we're going there organically.
Yeah.
The next one for us is know your path. And in
Yeah.
that means, like, it's not just the direction and all that kind of stuff. It's like, what tools are you using, what strategies are you using, what those kind of things is a big piece. That most of that kind of stuff is the stuff you learn in a business school, right? You skip over the
Mm.
first three most important things, and then you just go into like all the tools. But for the purpose of this, when you're working with your clients, when you're working with them to find their path, what are those pieces that you find that they need? What are those tools, strategies, techniques that's universal for them?
Well, I mean, a lot of it does come down to me as the coach being able to adapt to what they need and being able to adapt to them because yes, a lot of the clients that I attract are similar mindset to me, but they're also, different industries. I don't only speak with wellness practitioners. I don't only work with wellness practitioners. It's just when you're talking about niche, that's who I speak to when I'm marketing.
Right.
So the tools shift and change. And that's actually what I love about being multifaceted. I mean, maybe you can relate, is that sometimes I'm drawing on the scientific psychology side of things, and we're talking about personalities. We're talking about the type of personality somebody might be, which means maybe that they need to have more tactile learning. Maybe they need to do more research learning. Maybe it's learning how to adapt what it is that I'm doing and to provide the tools, whether so, I mean, I used to work with an engineering firm in New Zealand, and I was doing their corporate wellness program. And what I learned really quickly is engineers are. I knew that they were very logic minded, but I didn't realize the first day. I've learned it really fast after the first session. Is they need something that they can fill in the blanks and they can logically, sequentially move through with me as I'm going through whatever the presentation is. And so I learned really quick that they need fill in the blanks. They need to be
Yeah.
able to make connections. So we had sometimes, they had to draw the connection from the word to the definition, or, like the word to the emotion or whatever with lines. Like they needed to be able to like write on the paper and do something in order to actually participate and absorb. So I have now this variety of tools, everything from fill in the blanks to templates to videos to wellness sessions to all sorts of different tools to help people move through the barriers that keep them from progressing through their business and learning the new step and the next step of what they need to do. I find that is part and parcel of my psychology education, is understanding like not just the different learning types, but also there's personality that's involved that people are working sometimes against, because
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
don't even know themselves enough. They don't even realize that their personality is actually really causing friction in their lives, and that a personality doesn't have to stay fixed.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
it's so
it's
true.
just,
Yeah, it's interesting to hear it. I love it. I love it. It's perfect. Um, I think that there's the tendency to want to be like, well, you should use this tool and this tool and this strategy and always drive a van to get over the hill and always do. And you're right. It's not, we're people. We're complicated.
mhm.
We're different. We all have different learning styles. We all have different mindsets and times and pieces. So going back to the original, and I find that when people start businesses, when they start leading, when they start working with other people, they want to jump into those textbooks
Yeah,
of tools right away because those are tangible, right? Like those are easier to wrap your head around, right? You don't have to ask a lot of deep questions to learn a certain strategy, or it is what it is. It's A B C D, follow the rule and it'll go, right? Whereas sure, that's great, but unless you know yourself, you know your people, and you know what the purpose is of what you're doing, that may not even be close to the right tool to be using, right?
exactly.
So I love that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's that adaptability, right? Like, I think I've always been adaptable, but I think what really sort of trained me into that, if you will, is working as a flight attendant, because I did that for 8 years and the environment's constantly changing. Sometimes I would see over 1,000 people in a day that I was helping on the flights. We'd show up to, sometimes we wouldn't meet the crew you're working with until you get to the gate, and you're checking in for your first day, and then you're spending 5, sometimes 6 days with these people, and you're
right.
sitting in close proximity, not only in the middle tube, but jump seats. There's two people in a jump seat. Sometimes you're in the van all squished together too. So being able to adapt, and also, I don't know. So the one mantra, if I will, that really helped me hone in the adaptability, which I think is a skill that, especially as leaders and business owners, we really need to be able to hone that skill. We need to be
Agreed.
masters of adaptability. And for me, the sort of mantra that helped me is is basically, it's okay for disagreements to happen, and it's not personal. It's almost never personal. Even if it's directed at me, it's almost never personal. And the more I practice not taking things personally, the more, like those friction people that you have to work with, the less they bothered me, because then I just looked at them and be like, "Oh, they're having a day." And even if they have a day every day, like,
Yeah,
"Oh man, what must it be like?" I feel, what must it be like to be in their head? Oh, yeah, I would
yeah,
be like that too. If you can imagine what they're like, if you need to be such a cranky bee, imagine how cranky you are internally, right? So for me, that was kind of my process in becoming adapt, because you have to adapt to people first, because we interact as humans, we interact with people all the time. And most of the time, if somebody's going to have, we'll say, a cranky day, they usually blame it on something someone said or did to them, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
kind of off
Yeah,
topic, but kind of not.
no, I think it's totally pointing it. It's really cool, and it is a skill to
Mm,
learn. My mom was the first one to really hammer it into me because as a young kid, I was really, you know, I'm a very empathic person, which is what makes me
Mm,
good at my job. And what's,
exactly.
years later, I see it as a skill and a beautiful gift. Right. But, in junior high, it sucked. Right. I could feel what
Mhm.
people were feeling. I didn't understand, anyways, along to that, it was hard. And I always made it about me.
Right.
And I was like, no, it's got to be about me. It's got to be something I said, I did. It's, they're mad at me. They're mad at, and her common thing was, it's not about you. It's
Mm,
not about you. It's not
nope.
you. It's not about you. So that's kind of in my head. I roll it now. It's not about you. And I have to remember, all right, you're right. It's not about me. It's about what they're going through, what they're going on. And again, so I need to now learn this person, right? Like I
Mhm.
need to, whether it's quick or short, like I've taken myself out of it. I'm not that important in the world that everybody's thinking about me, right? And
Exactly.
I need to understand them. Where are they coming from? What are they doing? Even on the base level. And like you said, if I don't have time to understand them, I just need to accept it, right?
Mhm.
It's like, just ride that wave because this is what it is. And it's not about
Yeah.
you. Again, get your ego out of it and just,
Yeah.
go. I love that. That is a brilliant tool.
And one mindset that really helped me to sort of hone in on that was just like everybody's allowed to be who they want to be. Like
Yeah.
why if somebody, if somebody is difficult to work with and they're being a B, why do I have the right to ask them not to be? If they want to be a B, they get to suffer the consequences of being a B, which means people don't really like working with them and maybe are that back to them too, or avoid them. They get to do that. That's okay. It's okay.
Yep.
I don't like
Yeah.
it,
And it
so I
works
get
with
to choose
clients. It
not.
works with people you work with. Yeah, totally.
I get to choose to say no. I get to choose to ignore. I get to choose to be in a different room, all of those things. It's just like that whole idea of empowerment, of being able to be accept that people don't always have to do what you think that they should do, even if
Right.
majority thinks the same.
Right. Very true. Very
Yeah.
true. I love this. This is great. Well, I mean, we can talk for hours, but I
Oh,
think we should. Well, maybe we'll have another podcast and we'll give it
yeah.
another go because there's
It's
so
like
much
5
insight that
more.
I'm learning from you, and yeah, I think it's awesome. But at the end of every show, I ask a few rapid fire questions.
Deal.
So I wonder if you're cool with that. Are you okay with that?
Yep. Let's
Okay,
do it.
so right on. I want to know, since we were talking about tools, let's go
Yep.
with the first one. Do you have a daily habit? Do you have a daily habit, a tool, something that you do every day that kind of sets you up for success that you'd love to share with us?
Prioritize self-care. That
Right.
is my daily, and unashamedly, without guilt, no pressure. I have all the time I need. I set aside the time for it and self-care. And that's, includes everything from taking my time having breakfast with my coffee to taking my dog for a walk and all the things that we do in the morning to kind of get ourselves ready, right through to the evening to get yourself ready for bed. Is I make sure that I take time when I need time. I take time for self-care with guilt-free.
Nice. I love that. Guilt free. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key.
Awesome. Okay, so can you recommend any books, podcasts, anything, knowledge, like that? Like, what's a book that you give away most often, kind of thing?
I have two actually. The first one is called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yep. Yep.
It's a good
Awesome.
one. It's a good one. My favorite sort of mindset shift from him is the idea of everyone taking 100% responsibility for their interactions with each other. Not this 100% you do 50-50, but everybody takes 100%. That really resonates with me. And so I like audiobooks, so I've listened to it a lot. And that's
Excellent.
really good. And then the other one is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker.
Yeah,
And
so good.
it's just a classic. It's just such a good one to get you feeling motivated and empowered and ready to stand in your power. It's good. It's another one that I read on repeat, I listen to on repeat.
Awesome. Okay, and then so we've started your day, self care. That's amazing. We've got some great reads now. You've had a hard day. It's been a challenge. what is your decompression? What is your guilty pleasure at the end of the day to put a cap on it?
I would say a piece of chocolate and a good meditation session.
Nice.
And when I
Awesome.
say meditation, it's blanket anything that involves deep breathing and calming the nervous system. So there's a lot of different varieties in that umbrella.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So good. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's amazing.
For having
Where
me.
can people get a hold of you if they want to get in touch with you? Whatever you
Ah,
say, I'll put down in the notes.
sounds good. Well, you can find my website is Nicole Du Guay, and you'll write it in the notes,
Yep.
.com. So NicoleDuGuay.com. You can find me there, or you can find me on Instagram, NicoleDuGuay.biz, B-I with a Z. Those are kind of my two main places. I am starting a Facebook group, so eventually that'll be there too, but I'll post that in Instagram and on my website as well. So if you stay in touch in those ways, you can find out more there.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
Thanks, you.
yeah, let's connect again and have another chat. There's so much more knowledge we can gain from you.
Love it. Sounds good.
Okay. Bye, Nicole.
Bye.